Serious people who did a long time, 5 years plus, in prison. What was your biggest shock of the outside world? You forget about the details of things. Like the way carpet feels on the bottoms of your feet. What it feels like to shower completely alone and without flip-flops on. In prison you have a certain number of smells that you're exposed to every day. Think of them as the first page in a book. But when you get out you have the rest of the book available. It's a lot to take in all at once. With social media and everything. There's the acknowledgement of the passage of time. When I got locked up I left a lot of friends and family behind and did 3 years on my own. No visitors, no calls, no mail. When I got out it was a trip to get on Facebook and Instagram and see how everyone I was ever close to had moved on with their lives. Having kids, getting married, getting fat, losing weight, starting and quitting jobs, falling out with each other, some even passing away. People think about a prisoner doing time, but don't understand that the time does them. You are frozen in it, while you're stuck in a constant loop of the same day every day. The rest of the world moves on without you. When you get home, you feel left behind. It's an anxious panic to catch up after that. Without flip-flops on, man, this one killed me. It felt so weird to stand barefoot in a shower. It took weeks before I was able to tell my brain that this was okay and that it wasn't disgusting and I wasn't standing in a puddle of someone else's diseased babies. I did 6 years. My biggest shock was finding out you can't do much of anything without a smartphone. Companies don't even do paper applications anymore. They don't have TV in there that lets you keep culturally abreast to some extent. Oh, of course. We got basic cable, and I was aware of the new technology, but I had no idea everyone was that dependent on it. Just money in general. You have no idea how to handle money. That takes a little time to get used to. For my cousin, it was the Gamma Boy Advance. This was a while ago, 2006 or so. My cousin, who'd been in prison for about 10 to 15 years, was finally getting out, so me and a bunch of the family went to pick him up. Then go get breakfast at some diner. I was just a little kid at the time, so I was playing with my Gamma Boy Advance while we were at the restaurant. I'll never forget how much the game I was playing blew my cousin's mind. He saw it and immediately said, "Holy shit, what is that? Look at those graphics. Oh my god, that's insane." His sister, "Are you seeing this shit?" To me, it was just some Star Wars game. But to my cousin, it was the future. It's actually through video games that me and him bonded a lot. I would tell him about or show him new stuff in the gaming industry and he would tell me stories about the games he would play growing up. I have done 5+ years in prison. I was mostly amazed by smart TVs. With Netflix and browsers directly in the TV, and the 4G internet speeds blew my mind as well. My brother served a little over 3 years, but the morning we picked him up we stopped by a grocery store to let him grab some snacks. He's walking back to the car with this stunned look on his face, and finally as he gets to us, he goes, "I felt like I was on an acid trip. I haven't seen that many colors in so long. I need to sit down." I work in jail, but when talking to a lifer who was about to go out on parole, I tried explaining smartphones, which blew his mind. Then I described Pokemon Go, and he thought I was just messing with him. He got angry that I would make shit up. I wonder if he's running around playing Pokemon Go now. My father was incarcerated from 2003 to 2016, and the biggest shock for him was technology and how much McDonald's has raised prices. LMAO. Man, I'm kinda at the Duck McDonald's point. I have lived on that shit for most of my life and I will always have a soft spot for a 1 AM McDouble. But it's pricey enough at this point that much better tasting options are available for the same cost. Just got out. Weirdest thing was seeing all these damn scooters laying everywhere. That's weird to all of us. My father was a counselor in a state prison for 12+ years. He told me the inmates would often talk about wanting to feel their body submerged in water, taking a bath, swim, etc. There are only showers, so that feeling up being weightless Floating. Submerged was something these men would fantasize about. I interned at a private criminal defense firm. The most notable shock of any of our released clients had to be one man who in prison for 16 years, odd amount because he was paroled as part of plea deal. He had a daughter who was just a child at the time he was incarcerated. And when he got out, she had just had a baby, his first grandchild. She didn't tell him about the pregnancy beforehand. She wanted it to be a surprise upon his release. I wasn't there when our old client met his newest family member or his now adult daughter. But when he came in a few months later, he still couldn't talk about the new baby without crying happy tears. He had a picture in his wallet of his daughter when she was little he brought with him to prison, and showed us the new picture of his grandchild he keeps with it now. I know a guy who did 2 to 3 years I think, and I worked construction with him. I asked him what is the biggest thing that stands out to you now that you're free. He simply said, the fact that I'm here with you, but I can physically walk over there to that field 500 meters away without anybody or any wall stopping me. I did 4 years. The day I got out my uncle took me to Walmart to get everything I needed. I went off by myself to get the things on my list. First I went to the lotion aisle. I was looking at all the lotion and became so overwhelmed by all the choices. Dry skin, healing, scented, etc. In there I had no choices and was given what I needed. Having all these options overwhelmed me. I gave my list to my uncle to get it for me. It was really hard to go out in public for a while. The first night I tried sleeping in a dark bedroom like I did before prison, but couldn't do it. My dad slept on the living room couch with the TV on, so I slept on the other couch. I needed to sleep around people and noise for a while until I got used to being alone again. I was surprised because one of the things I missed the most was sleeping in a dark, quiet room, alone in a comfortable bed. For a long time I slept with my arm or a pillow over my head because of noise and bugs. 5 years for aggravated assault and robbery. I was 3 months past my 18th birthday when I was sentenced. I lived in a small railroad town in south central PA. I guess one of the biggest shocks for me was how much the town had changed. The scrubland, where we rode our bikes and dirt bikes, is now a strip mall. My friend's driveway is now the main road through that part of town. Someone fixed up the old dive bar and turned it into a fairly popular restaurant and bar. Hell, whole developments popped up all over the place. And while I wouldn't exactly call the changes gentrification, the town certainly has improved as far as standards of living, without ridiculously increasing the cost of living. Shock number 2 was internet access. AOL, NetZero, Earthlink, etc. were the go-tos then, but phased out within a couple years of my release as faster access from cable companies became more widely available and affordable. Great question. I don't often get to chime in on this sub. Edit. I'm blown away by the response to this comment. Thank you for the upvotes, comments, questions, concern, and support. And thank you, kind strangers, for the awards. I remember asking a coworker of mine. He said first was that no one had taken his car. It sat for 6 years unmoved in the street. Tires held air and battery was dead, but started with a push. Second was how quickly things had gone up in cost. Rent, food, gas, things like that. For some reason I feel bad for that poor little brave car that sat there for 6 years. I occasionally work with people who've just gotten out of jail or prison. And if it's a longer stay, a weird thing I've noticed is how often they are enamored of things like Spotify. Like once a guy had just gotten out after 10 years and the first thing he wanted to do was get Spotify set up. He tried to connect through Facebook, but couldn't remember his password. Although people getting out of jail are doing so much work to catch up, it's really distressing how little societal support there is if you don't have family to take you in. Spent 6 years behind bars. When I got out, the biggest shock was the beautiful sights and colors. I forgot how gorgeous nature was. It put the thought into my mind that I never want to go back, because there is no beauty in prison. The beauty is on the outside. I'm glad I'm out now, and every day still taking the amazing outside world for what it is. Edit. I also am having fun with new technology. Lol. I spent roughly 9 years in total at a maximum security prison for some dumb decisions I made as a juvenile. Self-checkout stands at stores and wireless headphones were definitely one of those "this can't be real" moments. I questioned reality. Like when you cannot explain an instance and it scares you trying to cope with. Did that really happen? That's how it felt. I did 5 1/2 on a 6-year sentence. I think my initial shock was how the physical landscape had changed. Places that were once vast swaths of field were now car dealerships and homes. The other one was how people treated and spoke to one another out here. I wanted to fight everyone for about 6 months. This didn't personally happen to me, but I worked for a criminal justice reform group in Florida for about a year and a half. We connected with a guy who got released from prison after 50 years. He was arrested during one of the MLK riots in 1968 and locked away for half a century by an infamously racist and vindictive judge. As you can imagine, after so much time he was struggling with a lot. But the big things were that he didn't have any ID anymore and had no way to get it. Didn't know where his birth certificate or anything was. He said it's like I don't even exist anymore. Apostrophe. Writing this for a friend as he doesn't have his own Reddit account, so please understand this is not my story. Friend. Served 11 years in prison for armed robbery and not having a permit for a weapon. He wasn't sentenced with this, but admitted to me he had assaulted one of the officers first on scene. I went with his brother to pick him up from prison and slowly we took it back to where he used to live, 2 hours away. He was always nervous and anxious. His words were, "My biggest shock probably was how much had changed. Mum and dad live on the other side of the country. I've lost all communication with all my friends but you and generic other friend name in a month or so. I came by to ask him how he was doing. It's so weird to not have to give anyone my stuff. I don't have to hide anything or worry about the consequences if it gets found. I'm guessing he sadly had quite a rough time in prison with other convicts or even the guards." I went in around the first iPhone. Came out around 2014, and what disturbed me the most wasn't so much smartphones, but how everyone everywhere had one in their hand staring at it. It felt very Black Mirror / Twilight Zone-ish. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.